process once more. They don't seem to be dealing with the here and now. The generational change programs they're putting in place is commendable, and I think that if it all works out, hopefully in 10 or 15 years that should help alleviate the problem. It's not going to make the problem going away totally, but the other problem they've got is they don't want to deal with the here and now. The here and now is kids who are not part of that generational change. They're your teenagers or pre-teens who are now committing these offences and costing us a lot of money, both personally, business-wise, health-wise, psychologically-wise. They come into your homes, they come into our businesses, and they destroy our property and they steal our property. As I said, there's two separate issues here. There's a generational thing, and there's also the here and now. We want the here and now fixed somehow. They've got to try something. They've got to allow police more powers to intervene with children on the street late at nights. We were here just after 5 o'clock, and there were already 3 casing the elders building behind us. So they had no regard to anybody that was walking around, going home from work, that sort of stuff. They were looking through windows, trying doors already. So that's the sort of problem that we're dealing with. The process seems to roll on. No one seems to want to fix this problem. No one seems to want to talk about it in a serious way. And I think that the government really need to stand up and take notice. The fact that we've probably got another, 90 to 100 people here, I'd say, it shows that the Palmerston residents are also very concerned, as well as the Darwin guys. I think time has come that our MLAs, with an election coming up, need to find a way of dealing with the here and now and making these kids come to account, because they're very seasoned in what they do. They know exactly what they're doing, they know exactly what can be done to them or can't be done to them. So I urge you all once more, if you're a victim of crime, property crime or any sort of crime, you need to report it to the police. Even though you think that it's no good, it goes down as a statistic. You get a job number, it doesn't fix my problems either. But what it does, it allows the police to argue for more resources. It allows for a recognition that there is actually a problem in an area. If you don't report it, it never happened. You need to report it. You need to call the police line. They mightn't come out, they might come out. If it's a smashed window, or they've graffitied your car, or they've jumped your fence, it may be the piece to a puzzle that the police need. So you need to report it. You have to report it. Police are telling me that. They need that report done. It might be the piece that they need to make sure that they get a conviction or be able to stop something from happening. So please don't think that it doesn't do any good. In the long term, it does. If you keep showing your face, you keep talking to your MLAs, you keep emailing your MLAs, not just your local member, email all your MLAs. Okay? So that way the one person can't just bury it into their email pile and say, oh, it just never happened, don't worry about it, he's a whinger. But if you email all your MLAs, somewhere, somehow, someone's going to take notice eventually. The pressure needs to be kept on these guys. So please, if you do have an incident, report it to the police. Yeah? Leah, did you want to have a quick word to the gathering? So Leah's the opposition deputy leader. There's only 2 of them, but they're here today. By the way, all government MLAs and ministers were invited. Not one of them accepted our invitation, and they were invited twice this time. So just credit to those MLAs that have turned up today.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you everyone for coming. I'd also like to acknowledge the members who are here. I know Terry, of course, the Leader of the Opposition, Gary Higgins, Jerry Wood's here as well. And also, actually, people are aldermen from the City of Palmerston. We've got Alderman Henderson, and I saw Alderman Morrison earlier, and apologies if I've forgotten anyone else. I think it's really important that you have taken the effort to come tonight, because it shows the government, even though they're not here, which is hugely disappointing in and of itself, but it shows the government that people are willing to mobilise to have their voices heard. And it's really important that you continue. Sorry, Alderman Hale, I see you there as well. It's really important that people continue to do that, because if we don't, then our voices won't be heard and we will continue to be ignored. We've got huge concerns and very little confidence in the government's ability to really do anything about this crisis. One thing is for sure, is that Territorians are sick and tired of being victims time and time again. And Kevin, you and many other business owners are in that boat where you've been hit repeatedly, and so are many residents in Palmerston and of course across the border territory. And that's just not good enough. There is a chronic lack of consequences and an over-focus on generational change without being able to deal with the issue today. And that's something that we want to see more of. We cannot in good faith support the government's youth justice bill, and we will be opposing that legislation, largely because of the fact that in our view it is out of touch with community sentiment, it erodes consequences, and removing things like breach of bail condition as an offence sends a very wrong message to offenders, and so we will not be supporting that legislation. We've heard loud and clear about consequences, and sometimes they need to be really practical. We want to see things like escalating penalties for repeat property offenders. We want to see young people engaged in community service to give back to the community that they have taken away from, whether it's painting graffiti, picking up rubbish, helping clean up crimes that other people have perpetrated, something that engages young people in a meaningful way to understand what they have done to someone else's life. We also firmly of the view that Territory Families has a very important role to play in the care and protection of children, and they should be focusing their energy on that. We would not have youth justice under Territory Families under a country Liberals government, and we believe corrections need to take that part of the portfolio back. Corrections are the corrections professionals, and Territory Families are the professionals at providing therapeutic support and support for care and protection of children.
I've got no idea what that actually is.
Fair point. That's your view, sir. So that's what we would do. We would separate youth justice back from Territory Families. That's no reflection on the hardworking youth justice officers or anyone else. That is a policy decision because corrections are the right agency for that job. We encourage you to continue to keep in contact with us. Please do continue to ring the police. It is really important, despite how frustrating it might be that you are continuously having to do that. It is a very important tool for police to have that data and that information. And please keep your voices strong. We will continue to fight in Parliament and in every forum we can to say that this isn't good enough, but we need the community to come along that journey with us. So thank you, Kevin, for all of your advocacy and work that you've done in supporting Territorians to come and fight the good fight.
Thanks, Leah. We'll hold you to that should you get back into Parliament. Just, if you haven't signed our petition yet, I encourage you to do so. Leah touched on probably the main issue with the amendments to the Youth Justice Act that we feel is that shouldn't be done. The government has backflipped on arrest as a means of last resort, so the police now can do their job, as I understand. As far as removing breach of bail as an offence, I'll give you an example that was on the Police Fire Emergency website a couple of days ago, where a 15-year-old young lady was charged with, as per their site, which was arson, attempted arson, aggravated assault, property crime and stealing. She was taken before the courts. They bailed her. She then didn't show up for her next hearing the following day. 8 days later they caught up with her in Coconut Grove. She had breached her bail conditions 17 times in that time. And you can find that on the public record at Police, Fire and Emergency Services. So that, under the new amendments to the Youth Justice Act, would not become a statistic. It would not be an offence. So you can break the law 17 times with potentially no ramifications. So that's what this here is more about, is about making sure that if they're going to change the law, change it correctly. But just to push that through, I don't believe is the right thing. If you break the law, you face the consequences. Terry Mills, did you want to have a quick yak again, mate? Terry's a great supporter of this sort of stuff. You all know him, and he's a local member out here, Terry Mills.
Thanks, Kev. I'm speaking because this is Palmerston, and this is a place where we've met and we've had many meetings and talked a lot about this, and it's pretty disappointing that we're still talking about it. And yeah, there are some major issues with the Youth Justice Act as being presented, but there's 12 months to the next election. And the real issue is that there needs to be put before you a proposition that is understandable and meaningful that you can get involved in and change the way this works. There are parents out there who are deeply concerned about their kids, and the system that's supposed to be responding isn't responding well at all. It's creating greater problems. So the issue that we have in front of us is the rising anger is going to result in a response at the next territory election. But it's our responsibility, and anyone who's involved in public discussion, to hear what you've got to say and put something out there that you can believe in that will actually make a real difference. It's a complicated problem, it's not a political problem, and that last response from government, I was shocked to see it, how cynical it is that you go out and do focus group exercises to listen to what people are saying, and you hear what they're saying, and then you tell people that it's got to be boot camps and it's got to be this, that and the other, when you don't believe for a moment that that's what they actually believe. They're saying it in order to make you feel, oh, well, maybe they're okay, we'll vote for them again. That's because they're viewing it as a political problem. It's a social problem, and a very serious social problem that all of us need to be involved in. So what I think needs to happen is, rather than my mates who are coppers chasing kids 80 to 120 times, giving them warnings, putting them on diversionary programs before something serious happens, it has to happen at the very beginning, right at the very beginning, and all effort focused at the start. And I think what we should have here in Palmerston is a community court where the justice matters are resolved and dealt with here right in our community, and community members are involved at the beginning. Your judiciary are involved and other agencies are involved at the beginning. The neighbours are involved. The parents of those who are causing the offending are involved at the beginning. At the moment, it's 120 times down the road, and the whole attitude of the community has changed, and you're starting to view every kid that's walking down the street as being a potential problem because we don't know. And those who are causing a problem just snub their nose, they don't care. That's one fundamental change that needs to occur, that these matters need to be brought into the community right at the beginning. And Kevin, Leah, you're dead right. Please don't grow weary of making the report. You must do that. You must do that. Because the moment you start to back off, a false message is starting to be established. And we start to lose that capital. You start to lose your faith in our system and our capacity to fix it. So don't do that. My copper friends say, I know we let it down, I know we don't follow up, but believe me, it does make a difference. They need that intel. Okay, so there just has to be a change of thinking. At the moment, we're chasing it the wrong way around. We started up, when we were in government, we started up camps with traditional men that wanted to be involved in those camps out in the bush. They don't actually believe in those kinds of programs, so they found reason to close them down. I believe in those kinds of programs. There are men out there who believe in those kind of programs and want to invest in these young people, but we've got bureaucrats who don't believe in those kind of programs, and they find reasons to close them down. They will be opened again because we believe in that kind of approach, but only if we have the support of the community. And that's what we'll have to resolve in the next 12 months. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. I'm going to open up to the floor, but I don't want any abuse. I don't want...
I'd like to talk if that's all right.
Yes, you're more than welcome, sir. But I don't want any abuse. I don't want any racial taunts, nothing. G'day, my name's Chris Turner. I'm from Got Your Back Foundation. We started as an organisation 3 years ago. We've not been funded by government, and we were designed from the ground up to address exactly the issues that you're facing here today, Darwin's facing as well, and every other jurisdiction in Australia. So we are not alone.
But there's a story that needs to be told to you that, for whatever reason, you're not being told. Switch on the mic. for whatever reason, there's a whole story that you're not being told, and I don't know why that is, right? There's somewhere between 40 and 60 kids who are the main protagonists, if you like, right? And you could take that whole 40 or 60 kids and go and dump them in jail, and you think that'd be the end of your problem. Well, I can tell you now it's not going to be the end of your problem, because you haven't done anything to address how those 40 or 60 got to be like that in the first place.
What came out in the Royal Commission was that 88% of the kids that were in detention at that point in time were clients of the Department of Territory Families. So not only did their parents fail, the department failed as well. So what are you going to do about it? This government is absolutely crapping in its kimbies because of people like you who are saying, we've had enough of this crap. I have too. 5 times I've been broken into. Walked in my bedroom and stole stuff off my night table while I was asleep with my wife and children. We've got to stop that stuff. But there's a reason why these kids are doing what they're doing. I'm not a soft on crime guy, okay? But if you just keep locking them up and extending sentences and not doing anything else, all you're going to do is build more and more jails. And it's going to cost a lot. Lots more than it's costing right now. So you've got a choice, people. Yep, I know it's painful, the little sods, right? But you can actually get involved in community organisations like Got Your Back Foundation and help us and support us to stop what's going on. This government won't do it. They don't know how to. Territory Families is an absolute shambles. Choice is up to you. You can go and say, we want tougher action. We want these kids locked up and removed from the streets now and put into places like Dondale, and all you're going to do is create adult crims. And you're not doing anything about the reason those kids are coming out as and offending in the first place. And I can stand here and tell you some of those reasons, but I'm not going to bore you to death. But remember that name, Got Your Back Foundation. We've designed from the ground up to address this issue, and this issue alone. But, for whatever reason, this government has decided that it doesn't want to go down that path.
Help if you can.
Other opinions? That's what we want. We want discussion on this topic. Sir.
Yeah, g'day guys. My name's Keith Drew. I've worked in corrections since 1980. All over.
Can't hear.
I've worked in...
Can't hear.
Can anyone hear me? All right, g'day. My name's Keith Drew. I've worked in corrections since 1980 after I left the army. And I've worked in Goulburn Jail, Long Bay Jail, juvenile detention centres in New South Wales, Alice Springs Jail, Berrima Jail. Now, all I can see, I've lived in the Territory now half my life, 30 years, and all I've seen after learning the basics in the 80s down south is that the new system of corrections and juvenile detention is more punitive than corrections, especially with the kids. And I understand the problem we have with our young kids in the Northern Territory. And I just want to push one thing, is that the only services we have for anybody in the Northern Territory, white or black, and Chris is quite happy to talk to on the internet, and we're getting there. But the thing is, the Territory and the federal government for over 5, 6, 7 decades have put a problem in that the only services we have is down the track. So the people have got to come in to Darwin, Catherine, Tennant, Alice, Now, they built a hospital in Papunya in the Western Desert, which was an area of my responsibility as a parole officer. And the hospital's been there 30 years, but it's got operating theatres, it's got operating tables, it's got wards, but it's a storeroom. It's a huge storeroom, bigger than the library. Now, why haven't we tried to take the pressure off Alice Springs, Catherine, Darwin and Tennant by just allowing that hospital to open and get services, infrastructure into the communities, especially Papunya in the Western Desert, Goyder, hospital and services. You know, Jabiru, they're rebuilding it. You know, Utopia in the eastern side of the track down south. If we have a service centre for all these people, we have services for the people that don't have to come on the track. Now, the mere fact is you try to do that to people in Dubbo or Coonamble or anywhere in Australia and just put you out there and build houses and build houses and build houses, and that's the greatest thing the government says, we're building houses. Build infrastructure, services. Now, if we can really get the Northern Territory looking like New South Wales and Queensland, where there is actually service centres off a main road that runs from north to south. We need services in the community. We need good schools. I've been to so many schools that are demountables. I've been to so many bloody medical centres out in the Western Desert on the Western Australian border, Kintor, the demountable clinic. Now, if we cannot supply services in their homelands where they want to live, they're going to come in and they're going to be relying on everything that we need because we're not going to give them services where they are. Now, that's all I want to say, guys. And the children problem is that, you know, look at Four Corners report at Don Dale, which was Berrima Jail. You know, you had 10 prison officers, a dog and the Commissioner of Corrections sitting there used more gas on them. They didn't read the Riot Act, and everyone laughs when I say the Riot Act, but I've worked in jails all my life. You have to read the Riot Act. And they didn't allow those kids that were locked up to get out before they gassed the 14-year-old boy, and they had dogs. Prison officers, we go in and do cell extractions for adults. And these 10 prison officers, a dog and a commissioner were scared and they had to gas all those kids. And if the justice that said it was reasonable is an idiot.
Thanks, mate. Nobody else? Okay, we'll wind it up there. Oh, Jerry. Yes, Jerry.
Probably sick of Polly's, but anyway, I'll give my 2 bobs worth. I actually don't quite agree with the government, the opposition about handing youth detention over to corrections. Hang on. I'm a fan of actually turning it over to an NGO that's completely away from both government and the politics. And one of those you heard about, Gotcha. There's also another group called Diagrama who came out from Spain. They have about 20% recidivism when it comes to looking after youth, and they've got their results. You can have a look up in Spain, in France.
Ours too.
Yeah. But the principle is whether we should actually, and governments hate the idea of privatising these facilities, but I just wonder whether that'd be a far better thing. They're still responsible to the government because the government will set the parameters. If they make mistakes, they're in trouble because they've got a contract. But looking at some of the figures for these groups, I think there's a better chance that we hand them over to those private people who have had experience with looking after youth and have got a track record. Gotcha's here talking about its what it does, but Diagrama, it also came out from Spain and was very interested as well. On the other thing, I still think that the government, this is 3 years into its term, and it has no facilities for youth outside of Don Dale or letting people, off on diversion. I'm not saying diversion is off in the sense that they have to do something, but we did have Wildman River. It was got rid of by the Labor Party. It was an ideal place for youth that were just starting to get into trouble. And the whole concept there was for the police to actually get an order that those young kids could go out there. Now, they didn't have it all free. They had to either be filling sandbags for the saltwater intrusion project that was happening at the time, or doing fencing. And then the afternoon, they had an education. They had to sit down and have school. And then later on, they could have a bit of a kick around the footy oval, and there has a little gym there. They cooked their own meals, and at night, they were locked up. They locked up. But they had someone there that was basically, or some facility that was trying to say to them, we know you're going down the wrong path at the moment. If you want to continue down that path, this is the sort of life you might end up leading. And I certainly think that we have to show the community that people who do get into trouble, whether it's minor or major, will have to take responsibility for what they do. So as Leah said, if they put graffiti over a building, they have to come back and scrub it off. And I was recently asked about this in the case of the Humpty Doo supermarket. A few years ago, a bunch of kids, I won't say what school they came from, they just covered all the outside walls in graffiti. Well, it didn't take long for people to find out using this thing, and word gets around who did it. And the local copper is now a senior policeman. He organised, he found out who they were. They were required to come down that Saturday morning when all the people were going to Woolies supermarket with paint, with scrubbing brushes, and he helped them as well. And they had to clean up all those walls in front of everybody else and then go and apologise to Woolworths, who had kicked them out. That's the sort of thing we need. Doesn't send kids necessarily to prison, and I think prison should be the last resort. Doesn't mean they shouldn't go. But start off with showing kids you've got to take responsibility for actions. And if we do that, we mightn't be in the mess we are today. Thank you.
Couldn't agree more, Jerry. Couldn't agree more. Rightio, folks, so just to wrap up, if you haven't signed our petition and you don't want to see these changes go through, please feel free to come and do it. We're going to get that into Parliament in the next couple of weeks through the proper channels. Once again, I know you've been broken into a lot, but if you have troubles, you need to report it. You have to report it. Governments hate it, police love it. Okay? So we need to make sure that the true story is getting out there. And once again, the government needs to show real consequences, be them removing the graffiti off the wall or maybe having to go to a boot camp or something like that. There needs to be consequences, real consequences to what is occurring in our communities these days, because it's driving a wedge through our communities and it shouldn't be. There's a lot of good people across the territory, and we've got a lot of good kids through the territory as well, and they're upset about this as well.
I think you'll find most of the public are getting a little bit disgruntled with what's actually happening from the law. You find that, look, we've all made mistakes as kids growing up. We're all human, we've all made mistakes. You know, I think every kid's entitled to a second chance, but I think after the second chance, we as householders, business owners, and people who've been broken into numerous times and seeing these same kids being brought before the courts numerous times are looking for something more substantial. You know, a slap on the wrist, a bottle of Coke and a bag of biscuits doesn't do it anymore. Us people as taxpayers, who are community-based people who put jobs on people so they can feed their families, right? We expect more from the government. We expect consequences to these children and adults who do the crime. People talk about Dondale. The kids at Dondale are acting exactly the same on the streets as what they are inside that detention centre. That is a holiday camp. That is a holiday camp.
Yeah, no, it's no holiday camp, but there's a reason for that. For them, it is a holiday camp.
Exactly right.
Because for many of them, what they live with in terms of living with their families or with
Excuse me.
sisters. Or
That
with,
doesn't reflect on my house being broken into, and that is not my problem. My issue is that I expect to see some sort of formal consequence to a repeat offender, and our government is letting us down. We need the support of people here to change the legislation, to put some sensible guidelines in place. I love you, fantastic, you said it to perfection. We need change. The only way we're going to get change is if we stand together. If a kid makes a mistake once, fair call. We've all been young once, we've all made a mistake. All right, but repeat offenders, We need change in this legislation.
They don't care.
And that's why we're all here, my friend. We're all here to back each other up, to be a voice, to try and be heard. And have a guess what? We'll keep plugging away. We'll keep doing these rallies. The numbers will slowly get bigger and bigger because people are frightened. People are frightened in their own homes.
Yeah.
Business owners are frightened.
I live in an apartment now for that very reason, because my wife won't live in a house, right?
And they're just as a target as anywhere else.
But there's a reason why these kids are doing what they're doing. This is not an excuse. I'm not saying there shouldn't be consequences. There should be. But what you think is a consequence for them is a holiday, because where they're coming from is worse than Dondale. In Dondale, they've got a bed, a roof,
Good,
and food.
good. They're off the street. They're not doing multiple break-ins.
What's coming out of their worse? They're worse.
Mate, when it came to, and look, I understand your sentiments, and I back your organisation. You're doing a great job. All right. When it came to violence, what happened? The government brought in mandatory sentencing. How much one punch situation do you see? How much has violence dropped in our town, in the nightclubs, because of mandatory sentencing?
Okay, so we can sit here and argue about this all night, but consequences doesn't necessarily mean going to jail.
Correct.
Consequences doesn't mean being warned 10 times by the police. There's a consequence. Removing the graffiti. There has to be a consequence somewhere, a real consequence. Sir.
Guys, you're not going to fix that problem here tonight. It's just not going to happen. I've been in the Territory since 1986. I've been through a hell of a big Liberal Party control era, into the Labor Party, then Liberal Party again, then Labor Party again. This problem has been going on since 1986. Okay? Last election, the Liberal Party was decimated. Tonight we have 2 Liberal Party candidates standing here. I'd like to see something come out from you guys, not just talk. Make an actual policy. Do something to fix it. Because at the moment, the Labor government are digging their own hole. They are burying themselves. Okay? You guys need to do something and show us that you're doing something. Because come next election, that's what we're looking for. Someone needs to answer for what's not happening. We had a meeting here about 3 years ago down at the school, and we put all of these problems to the meeting, and we got smart lights, ankle bracelets, and CCTV cameras that do absolutely nothing. We want some action. Whether it's these camps, people from Spain, I don't know what they know about the Aboriginal community, but if it works, try something. But at the end of the day, what's been put in place has had a negative effect because nothing is being fixed. And the crime statistics, if we do stop reporting stuff, those crime statistics drop away, and the Labor government go, oh look, we've fixed everything. So keep putting the reports in, people, please. Because at the end of the day, if the reports aren't there, the statistics are all good, and the government think we're all hunky-dory, and that's bullshit. Thanks, guys.
Okay, folks, we might wrap it up. It's really tea time and time for a beer. Thank you once again for coming down. We need to maintain the rage. We will continue to do this, be it at this venue or another venue in a few months' time or a month's time as the issue progresses. But once again, thank you very much. And once again, if you haven't signed our petition, please come up and sign it.
If you have got them, they can be handed.
Oh yes, if you have.